Hey gang, I'll be walking you through a couple of items today. More specifically, we'll be doing a quick overview of all the app's features today, how we use those features internally here at Timelinr, and my methodology and approach to minimalistic management. Let's get started. First thing you'll see when you log into Timelinr is our timelines overview page. This is where all of your timeline projects show up. So we'll start by taking a look at these cards here. These are each individual projects. They all show up here on the screen together. You can add a timeline by clicking on this card over here or this button up here. And if you're looking at the card, when you hover on it, you get a couple of options. One is your share timeline. This creates a public link. I can just show you how that works real quick. Share this timeline, you can turn this on, and it'll let you share a public link that anyone can access, so you don't have to be a user of Timelinr to access this. And you can copy that, and here if you paste it in, you can see the timeline right there. And if I turn that off and refresh, it removes the timeline from viewing. So this is great if you have a client or if you have outside organizations or people looking at your timeline and you want to turn it off and change something. As soon as you come back in and turn it back on, this link stays the same. And so once they go and load that up next time, they would be able to see it again. You can also share via email as well. Let's see, what else? Over here, if you click on the three dots that represent a menu, you can delete a timeline. And let me go back. If you click on, if you look here, this shows you how many bars are in a timeline, and this area here shows you the people that are added to that timeline. If you click on this area, you can add or remove people from the project. So let's go ahead and dive into a timeline. So when you load up a timeline, it will show you all of the bars in one single view. And let's start up here. If you want to change the name of your timeline, this is one area you can do it. Just click on this and you can edit that right in line there. If you want to zoom in or out, there's a couple ways to do that. You can hold down Shift and zoom in or out with your mouse scroll wheel. You can also use these buttons up here to zoom in or out. If you click on the zoom word, you can select one of the predetermined zoom levels. You can also double click, or if you hold down Shift and double click, it'll zoom out. This here is your now bar. If I go ahead and scroll in, we're one of the only tools I know of, if not the only tool I know of, that allows you to plan on a minute level. So if you zoom in, you can actually see the now bar is moving in real time. It's pretty neat. Each of these bars represent a task or a project and the start and the end timeframes for that. Obviously that's estimated depending on how you do your project management. So you can grab here at the front of a bar and expand it this way or this way, and that goes for the back of the bar as well. My computer's running a little slow because of the video. If you click on a bar, you get the sidebar with all the details for that bar. So here you have the name of the bar, you can change it here. You have your start and end dates and times. You have the team that's assigned to that bar. Go ahead and add a few people. You can change the color of a bar. You can edit the description of a bar. We also let you add to-dos. These are items that you may need to keep in mind as you're progressing through a project or a task. And if you tab, this is pretty neat, you can get a sub to-do. and if you shift tab, it'll go back out to the main level. You can add comments, and you can also add replies one level deep. So that's most of the functionality around a timeline bar. Let's go ahead and take a look at boards. So next up, we'll take a look at boards. If you click on the main nav boards link, it'll take you to your boards overview page. This shows you all of the boards in your team. If you click on a card here, you'll see your board. So this works similar to any other Kanban type board that you've used. You have your left to right flow, you have your columns, and you have your cards within your columns that represent tasks. You can change the name of a column just by clicking and changing it. Edits in line. Same here for cards. You can go ahead and edit these right in line. You can also add a card. You can delete a column under the menu here. And these are pretty easy to move. You just grab it and move it left or right. And if you click on a card, you get the same timeline, the same view that you get on timeline. So it maps one for one with your timeline bars. And there's a reason for this, and I'll show you here in a minute. So you can add a date. You can change your color for your card. You can edit the team that's responsible for the task. You can add a description, and so forth and so on. And the real power of Timelinr is that you can then take this information that's in a card and push it to a timeline. And you do that by clicking here on the link icon, and you can choose which timelines you want to link this card to. This is something that we do internally a lot, is we'll have most of our items laid out as quick to-dos here in your boards area. And then what we'll do is we'll take certain ones that we want to show up on our timeline for road mapping, etc., and we'll just link those right in here. And then if you go over to your timeline and take a look, you'll see that that item is now linked here. And any timeline that's linked from a board has a timeline linked icon right here that shows up in the beginning of the description. Let's take a look at a couple of the other features of the application, and then we'll jump more into the methodology thought process. So if you click over here on team, this is your entire team, and you can edit team members right here. Here's their details, and you can update right there. You can also add a team member quite easily. Let's take a look at activity. This is all of the activity that's taken place in your team. So all your team members and what they've updated and where they've updated it will show up here. So it gives a quick overview of what the entire team is up to. Over here, if you click on the question mark icon, you can replay your onboarding tour if you've missed something the first time. And if you click on the notifications icon, anything that's @mentioned you or anyone that's @mentioned you would show up in here, and you can click on this and it'll deep link you right to the actual card or bar that has that information. If you click on your menu here, you can get to your settings. And your settings has a subpage, several subpages of settings here that let you manage your profile information, your teams, if you have more than one team, any billing information. This is also where you'd add your promo code if you have one, and you can change your password here as well. So let's talk a little bit about the methodology that I've been referring to. I've been calling it minimalistic management, and essentially it's the idea that most people are stuck in this pattern of micromanaging, which I feel comes as a byproduct of the agile methodology. For example, if you look at a board, everybody's focused on who's on what task and what are the effort points required to get this done, and how do you, what happens when a sprint is over, and where do you put the cards that are left over. And most teams rarely, if ever, finish a sprint, and then you've got burn down charts and all this other stuff. And Timelinr, we built this entire product with more of a minimalistic approach where we had no morning meetings. We didn't do any backlog grooming or any regular preparation of what we're working on. We just kind of attack the work, and we feel that that's the system that works best for shipping products and iterating on products, because you have to get the feedback from your team, you have to get the feedback from your clients, but you need to be able to work in a fluid way while still having long-term goals that you've roadmapped, product goals, team goals, marketing goals, etc., that you've roadmapped. And so that's how we use Timelinr internally, is we'll add everything in that we can think of into a board, and then again, using that feature where we send a card over to the timeline, we'll go into our timelines from time to time and take a look and see where everything is. And you have to keep in mind that roadmaps should be fluid. And so what we do is we'll adjust, right? If we're ahead of schedule, great. If we need more time, we'll just adjust that out and track that and map that and get more accurate with our planning and our estimation as we go and as we develop, as we get in sync as a team. And one of the things that's very neat about boards and pushing these cards over is, if you've noticed, you can choose to push to multiple timelines. So for example, if you have a board for your marketing team and a board for your development team and a board for your design team, you can go into each of those boards. They're possibly doing daily meetings or weekly check-ins on their boards and focusing there. But if you push it as a stakeholder and the individual who really has to determine, what the time frames and timelines are across the entire team, if you push it to a master board, when I come over here and load my master board, I can see all of the items that all of the teams have pushed from each of their boards. So it really gives you a good overview of what your entire team is doing at a high level. And that's mainly the point, is to get teams away from looking at micromanagement on a day-to-day basis and more at your macro, which no other products that we've really played with have a really good macro view across all of the tasks that are open. And so if you have a good macro view, now you're able to come in and see if you're on track, see if you're not on track, and kind of guide the team based on that level rather than staying in the weeds on a day-to-day basis. Another question I've gotten from a few people, actually less than I thought I would, is why we chose a dark color scheme. So there's a few reasons there. One of them is differentiation, which we believe is crucial to success, especially for our application. There's a lot of tools out there. They all have light UIs, and honestly, those put me to sleep. And so I wanted to do something a little bit more colorful and more interesting, because project management by default is not a very interesting thing for most people. So if we were able to make it look fun and feel fun when you're interacting with it on a day-to-day level, then it could by proxy become fun, especially if everything in the UI is more interesting to look at and more engaging. So that's why we did it, reason number one. Reason number two was we realized that a lot of people in the tech industry now are using dark UIs. InVision Studio just launched with a dark UI. Most people, most developers, all their IDEs are dark UI themed. And so coming from a dark UI in your work application and then moving into your planning application and it being a light UI can be a little jarring, even if it's subconscious. So we chose a dark UI to kind of keep that feel going, right? So you're going back and forth between applications and you're not getting all of that light off your display. Just as a summary, we have a lot more coming, a lot more features. There's some AI stuff that I want to do where we hope to really help people plan more accurately. There's some voice stuff we want to do that will help people keep track of who's doing what just by using voice, etc. But this is just the start, and we feel if companies shift their focus back to the big picture while still remaining agile, they'll overcome a lot of the obstacles that they've encountered in their planning frameworks. And it's a small shift with what I feel is massive benefits on teams, their health, their productivity, their engagement levels, and their efficiency. And we think these things will lead to better teams, better team dynamics, and those teams pushing out better products. Thanks for taking the time to look at Timelinr with me. If you have any questions, go ahead and reach out. Happy to answer them. Thanks.